Good evening, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Cover One Film Room, brought to you, of course, by the Cover One Sports Network and presented to you by City Cigars. And we have a special episode for you folks tonight. It's an important week. It's Dolphins week. It's a bit of a revenge week, but it's also an episode that comes on the same day of a pretty big re-signing happening in the Buffalo Bills team aspect. Wide receiver Cole Beasley has re-signed with the Buffalo Bills. And here on this show right now for you folks, we have the man who broke that Cole Beasley shit wide open, and also a man who is a DJ extraordinaire, Mr. Louie Del Rio of News for Buffalo.
And a fight just broke out at the Sabres game.
Look at this
man.
He
does it all.
So Louie is live right now at the Sabres game. Like, look at him just networking and cataloging everything.
Man, I'm trying.
You're crushing it. Jack of all trades. You got an awesome look, terrific hair. You broke that Beasley shit. We appreciate the hell out of you for joining us tonight. Thank you, Louie.
Guys. No, absolutely. Thank you, guys. And I said I'm a huge fan of you guys. Before I took this job, just so you know, I was a full member of Bills Mafia. I have to be a little more professional now, but I've been watching you guys. You guys do a great job. Nobody breaks down stuff like you guys, so cool to be on.
Louie, appreciate you joining us, man. And so, Anthony said, you broke the story, man. So I want you to walk us through how everything kind of unfolded, because it happened very quickly. We heard rumblings for a couple of weeks about Cole Beasley kind of being in the shadows, but with all the OBJ stuff going on, it kind of fell to the backside there. So talk us through and walk us through what happened when it came to this story.
So I was actually, last night I had gotten a text. I was actually trying to watch the finale of White Lotus.
Ooh.
And all of a sudden I get a text that messes up. Yeah, no spoilers. It was pretty good. And I get a text and it's like the eyeball emoji. That's when you know, all right, I got to pay attention. And I just got Bees is back. That's all I saw. I said, Bees is back. Like, what? So I text back, and so the source that I have within the team was like, hey, yeah, Bees is in the building, and looks like he's coming back.
Wow.
I said, oh, really? So I ended up making a couple of calls. I know some people in his camp, some other people, and I try to pick this apart. And I shot out a couple of texts, and all I got back is you got it, but don't say anything. So I'm like, well, hey, this is not my job. Is to say something here.
Yeah,
and I was like, listen, I'm new to the market. This would really help.
Throw me a bone here.
Right. So I was tipped off on, all right, we'll let you when you can do it. So I was like, you got to give me something where I can at least put it out there early enough that I was the first person, but I didn't actually do it, but you can tell I know. So I guess Beasley was there and told him, well, I like some kid's tweet on Twitter if you want that.
Oh, no way.
So I went, oh, okay. So yeah, I put I stumbled upon, who stumbles upon that? Cole Beasley's likes.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So I went and it was there. And I was like, so I just screenshotted it. I put it out. I was like, he might be here for wings. He might be here for rings. I try to.
That was good. That was very clever.
Thank you. So we knew. And it's funny too. It's actually, I kind of talk about how this whole world of breaking news works. There's a lot of ethics involved, especially if we're wanting to be first. There's a lot of ethics. So I actually was in contact with an insider, and I threw it out there and said, hey, I'm hearing about Bees to the Bills. And I was told, yeah, that's a done deal, but we're holding it for the morning. And I said, oh, okay. So I guess there's a way to do this where you jump the gun on people, you start pissing people off in this thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah. So I'm not going to go there, but let me know. And the insider I talked to, though, did not break it. Somebody else broke it. And I went, oh, so they must throw each other bones, or, hey, you got this one, I get the next one. Because the insider I spoke to, who absolutely had everything, I found out he was going to the practice squad. They actually weren't sure what they were going to do. And I found out he was going to be elevated to the game day roster. I told him that. He was like, okay, I didn't know that. But, yeah, I got it all done. I'm going to shoot it in the morning. He didn't even tweet it. Wow. I was looking for his tweet. So somebody else did it. So I was like, I wonder how many of them all know and just kind of throw each other bones to stay insiders. They're like, hey, you get this one. I'll get the Emmanuel Sanders one later. It's not true. I actually reached out to him and he didn't get back to me. So that's his agent said he loves NFL Network. So
what's it like? I guess just in general, but especially for you, like you said, new to the market and really trying to break in. What's it like sitting on a tip like that and knowing that you kind of can't break it, but you want to break it? Like, are you just like sitting there just like shaking and twitching, like wanting to just communicate it?
It's funny. Like I said, White Lotus sort of held me over for a little bit.
Cool.
But it was hard to fall asleep because what I didn't want is you don't know if they're messing with you. If like, yeah, we'll tell you when to do it, and then don't.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of looking like, man, I hope nobody else gets it. I didn't think anyone here in Buffalo was going to do it because I didn't see anyone talking about it. So you start to get nervous. But I was like, I know my sources are good. So I was like, man, I don't know what to do. I want to wait. But I knew, and I was like around 12:30, I was like, man, I could really bust this open here. Everyone would see it. But, I just thought like, there's ethics to this. You don't want to piss people off. Also, too, not worth doing it now and then kind of like messing everything up for the future. So
no, that makes sense. And so one more question before we get you out of here so you can actually get back to work.
Yeah, still 0-0 here. I thought you would bet the over, so sorry.
Let's talk football. So what's your opinion on this? What's your opinion on bringing Cole Beasley? What does it mean? What does it say about the Bills offense right now going into week 15 against the Dolphins?
I would say, we were talking, is that you can look at this two ways, right? As a Bills fan, you can look at it, man, the band is back. Everyone's together. This is so fun. Jack Allen's got his guys. We'll see how this rolls. 2020 was a good year. You can also look at it like, man, sort of an act of desperation, do you really want to be going down the Cole Beasley, John Brown route week 15?
Right.
Like, is that really the plan? So I think they have options. I know Josh Allen was fully behind this. I know they wanted this. You can see how the team reacted. So we'll see. Hopefully, maybe it gives them a jolt. But if you think about it, did you really want to go down this route? That means, Gabe, you went down this route. That means something went wrong, right? Crowder's hurt. McKenzie not stepping up. Gabe Davis not stepping up. There's a lot of issues here if you have to go this route. But they did. The OBJ thing obviously failed. And from what I was told, he was their number one option, though. They did want to bring Beasley back at some point weeks ago. You had said you'd heard about it. You're totally right. But I think the safest route for them was to let's just go get OBJ. There's no backlash to that. He's probably obviously better than Beasley at this point. And then when that fell through, then it was a no-brainer for them to go try and get Beasley. But Beasley was ready to go. And this whole talk of Buffalo from there, he loves Buffalo. He loves the fans. And I know they're going to shower him with bees on Saturday and everything's going to be great. And from what I heard, they told me, listen, if they get a Super Bowl, everyone's going to forget everything. And I think that's kind of what they're riding on, right? It's Super Bowl or bust anyway. So get a Super Bowl, nobody cares anymore.
No doubt about it. Everything. No, Louie, we appreciate you, man. Like we said, man, welcome to obviously Bills Mafia, and welcome to you're doing a great job. You're kicking off with a bang, man, and we appreciate you coming on to the show. We'll definitely have you back on. Enjoy the game, and let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, just follow me at Louie Del Rio 4. At Louie Del Rio 4. Hit me up, talk, whatever. I'm always down. You guys that do content online and stuff, you guys do a great job. The future is all of us putting out content. So even though I'm part of the media, I respect what you guys do, and
thank you.
And I love it. Yeah. So anytime you need me, man, I'm over here.
Hell yeah.
All right, brother. You have a good night, man.
All right, guys.
Later, bro.
All right, Anthony. No, that was a fun little scoop. He's gonna be fun for Bills Mafia. The type of content he creates. Obviously, really cool dude to have in our sphere now.
We need to have him breaking some news with some sick beats behind it, just really amping everybody up.
Got his headphones on.
Exactly. I need him tapping into that DJ background, because who else is doing that? No one else is doing that.
Be a good
know what your niche is. Exactly. Own it. Hone your craft, like we have here on Cover One. I think it's a banging idea, and if he gets on top of that, sky's the limit.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. So with that said, we have another guest that is in the green room waiting, and that is Mr. Connor Rogers. Connor, welcome to the film room, brother.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
Not too bad. Now, we appreciate you taking some time to break down a few plays with us, man. I know you're a busy dude, and so we wanted to kind of adjust the schedule to get you in here.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. It's I love the work you guys do. You guys do such a good job, so I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, real quick, man. We're talking about the Cole Beasley signing. You've seen the Bills, at least twice this year, covering the Jets. What does that signing of Cole Beasley, say as an outsider, as someone that covers the NFL and another team in the division? What does that say about the Bills offense when they go out and sign Cole Beasley this late in the year?
I'm surprised by it, by just keeping an eye on from afar the relationship or lack of relationship, whatever there was on and off the field with Cole Beasley, whether it was the fans, the team. I don't know. I don't fully understand that. But just from a football perspective, maybe it's clear, guys, that they just need a veteran that can work in the short area, right? When you watch the Bills, and I just finished rewatching this game, I believe, last night, and the Jets sat in quarters half of this game, and then they played a good amount of okay amount of man. But when you look at it, maybe the Bills just need a veteran that they can rely on to eat soft spots of zone, right? To find the soft area against the defense. We know how good Diggs is. We know the vertical threat Gabe Davis can be. I thought they would do a little bit more of that with the running backs, especially after trading for Nyheim Hines. But maybe they just want to add another guy that they can rely on for that aspect with Beasley when he's ready to come off the practice squad.
You know, Connor, you mentioned that that veteran presence and that piece for the Bills offense. And as we have brought you on to kind of take a look at some aspects from this past game, for the New York Jets, a calming presence for the Jets offense has been Mike White and his performance these last couple of weeks. Where do you sit on Mike White? Granted, small sample size for this year in these 3 games, but the idea of him potentially being the future quarterback of the New York Jets. I know there's a lot of variables within that right now, but this has all of a sudden become like a murky quarterback situation. And you've got a guy who pairs well with this defense and has looked good in a limited showing. Where do you sit right now on Mike White and his future with the Jets?
He's making a case each week, and every time you wait for that shoe to drop, right? The first week he played, it's against the Bears, and he could have thrown for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns, and it felt like nobody would have cared because it was against the Bears. He did everything he could. But what I noticed with that game that I was telling people, he was playing the position well that translates to whoever you're playing. That's the most notable thing. So then he goes against Minnesota. Their secondary's been so-so this year, but it's still a tougher test because they have the rushers up front that can make things happen. Then he goes up to Buffalo and takes a beating in the game. But you see why the wide receivers, the tight ends, and the offensive linemen gravitate to him so much. He will hang in to make any throw that he thinks will be on the field. So for Mike White, he's never going to be the most mobile guy. He's not a creator. But if you want to build a structured offense that you want to hit all 3 levels of the field and you feel like you can keep him clean enough in the pocket, he doesn't get distracted by the rush. The eyes don't really go down. He hangs in and makes tough throws. And guys, the thing that I noticed with him this year compared to last year and even compared to this summer, he's making anticipation throws to guys like Garrett Wilson and Corey Davis. So he's a younger guy still that's continuing to improve. And listen, do I think he's a future star or even the quarterback in the next 5 years? I'm not there. But do I think he's making a case to walk into summer next year competing for the starting job? At this point, especially as the schedule lightens from a defensive standpoint, he definitely is making that case.
It's fascinating about Mike White, and even just comparing him to Zach Wilson is, you mentioned it, his ability to stand in there and make that throw anywhere on the field. And there's different ways to extend plays. Sometimes you're extending plays outside the pocket, like a Zach Wilson will do a lot of the time, and kind of improvise in Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes type style. But then you can extend a play from the pocket, and Mike White did that several times in this game against the Bills. We're going to break down a couple of those plays once we get to the film. But I want to get your thoughts on, you talked about during the week about how Mike is versus pressure. And when that heat is bearing down on him, he'll stand in there and make that throw, take the hit on the chin for his wide receivers to get open and kind of extend the play from the pocket. But what did the Bills do differently than the other teams that Mike White has faced? What did they do differently against him to kind of get him rattled or get him onto the ground to kind of, they beat him down a little bit, right? So, I mean, like, what other things did they do to kind of phase Mike White?
I think they were sending blitzes and he wasn't really prepared for where it was coming from or when the timing was going to be, because we've seen him, especially against the Vikings, right? With the Vikings, you have a defense coordinator, Ed Donatel, who comes from the Fangio tree, who notoriously lives in split field coverages. And you're going to have to recognize those split field coverages against a decent pass rush and know what you can get away with, what kind of throws you can make to each side of the field. And Mike White did a really good job of that. And then you look at Buffalo and some of the shots he was taking.
Yeah.
It felt like he wasn't always ready for. It's also the level of player, right? Matt Milano coming downhill is a little different than your standard linebacker blitzing. So I think White is willing to take those hits, to make those throws. And it felt like it caught up to him in this one where the body can only take so much, especially when you get hit in the ribs. And he's somebody that I think he understands when the blitz is coming, but in this game, he felt like he wasn't ready for what magnitude it was. And the Bills got home. The Bills obviously have talent on the back end, even with the injuries they've dealt with. So it was a much tougher task for White in this game.
Yeah, and so we're going to take a look at a few of these plays from Mike White. This is a 3rd and 10 play here that he delivers a beautiful pass to Corey Davis over the middle of the field on a dig route. And I just love how he read the coverage in this game. You know, the last time the Bills saw Mike White, they had him confused and they picked him off a few times. But I love this play because of how well he read the coverage, specifically Tremaine Edmunds, and how he notices, you know, Tremaine carrying that route by the tight end and then goes back to the dig. He sees that separation before Edmunds sits, stands in there, and just throws a really nice high ball too, right to Corey Davis, so that only he can catch it.
So this is something he's showing really good awareness with, is understanding on money downs, 3rd and 4th down, not only where the sticks are, but the timing of what he can get away with, right? So against Minnesota, there was a 3rd down where he got crushed, and then on 4th and 10, he came back and threw the same exact route and distance to Corey Davis on this, very similar to this play, where it's just a dig, you're just working to the sticks, and while all that sounds great, the defense knows you're going to try some variation of that because you got to have the 10 yards. You got to have 10 to 12 yards on this play. So you're absolutely right, Eric. It comes down to who's going to clear out, who's going to carry. And if the ball's not perfect, it's either intercepted, broken up. It's just you don't live another day. So it has to be a perfect ball thrown almost when the wide receiver is not looking. Otherwise, the defenders are going to cut it off each time.
Yeah, this is just great stuff, right, Anthony? Like, this is the type of stuff, like, this is when we watched this film back, Ant, we saw improvement from him from, you know, the last start to this start, right?
Oh, 1,000%, especially, you know, like Connor said, juxtaposing it with his play last year, a lot of it just seemed his processing is good, right? And his ability to go from 1 to 2 to 3. But last year, he was almost kind of going from 1 to 2 to 3, and he would just like check it down or dump it down. You saw a little bit of that in this game and even in previous games. But really, when I watched the Minnesota tape, and Connor, you'll know it, there's that 4th down play in the 4th quarter where he just zips. He's also to Corey Davis where he reads the coverage and he just makes a tight window throw. And I saw that highlight initially. And so when I went back and watched the tape, you saw a lot in that Minnesota game of what you see in this game where he's starting to push the ball downfield a little bit more. You're seeing more of those deeper intermediate throws. And so now you've got a guy who has the processing, but who's also got the ability to push the ball downfield a little bit more. And when you've got guys who can separate and run routes like Corey Davis and Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore, as we continue to see what happens with his future, but you pair that with throwing with anticipation, being willing to take those shots, you have these chunk plays that he's added to his game this year.
That's exactly right. He feels like he thrives in that 8 to 15 yard area and understands what windows he has, what windows he doesn't. And I think when you look at last year, you nailed it. A lot of it was, hey, 1st, 2nd read, I'm not even going to think about it. I'm just going to throw to Michael Carter, who's, working in the flat or whatever it is. And now we're kind of seeing White grow beyond that, where he can go through multiple reads. He's using his eyes. He's using his shoulders. He's somebody that's always thrown with a good base, and that's why you see so much zip on a ball and where he can place it. He just has for us especially, because we're watching Zach, who basically has no mechanics at all.
Yes.
And then you go to Mike White, who is all mechanics. Mike White is not a gifted athlete. Mike White is, not going to be doing any crazy off-platform throws, but why he survived in this league and is now getting the chance to start is because from a mechanical process, I don't want to say he's flawless, but he's very, very well put together down by down and down in distance.
Yeah, and so we're going to go on to this next play here. This is a 1st and 10 situation, 6:46 on the clock in the 2nd quarter. And coincidentally enough, the Bills are facing the Dolphins, and this type of route concept with Waddle and Hill is something that Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins do a ton of, and it worked here, which is not good for the Bills. Hopefully they get this fixed. But I just love how Mike White, he hangs in there off the play action. They kind of move the pocket, the spot a little bit, and you see the in-breaking route to Elijah Moore, as he takes a
Gets
huge hit
walloped.
from Ed Oliver. But again, standing in there from this end zone angle is just, he stands in there and delivers that throw to a spot over Tremaine Edmunds, which is not easy to do. Over Tremaine Edmunds, drops it in a bucket to Elijah Moore on one hell of a throw on this play.
Yeah, this was the best throw of the game for him, I think, when you factor in just everything. The fact that he knew he was going to get clobbered, and he does that every week. He just doesn't care. But you nailed it. Not just lofting it over a linebacker, but, lofting it over an alien linebacker like Tremaine, who's just so big, so long. He's unlike most linebackers I've evaluated coming into the draft and into the league, especially at his age. And this is, once again, White just understanding the timing, where the ball needs to be, what he can get away with, as I believe that was a safety that was drifting away from the logo, which allowed Moore to get open. And you're right. You bring up the Dolphins. LaFleur and McDaniel were together for a very, very long time under Kyle Shanahan. A lot of the concepts, while maybe not the same, because the Dolphins personnel with Tyreek and Waddle is just insane, there will be crossover similarities. So this actually might be a good game for the Bills. It's like they got their appetizer of what the Dolphins will try to do, and now they can make their adjustments going into the Miami game on the shorter week.
Connor, we're going to pivot and look at some Sauce Gardner tape. But one last quick question for you on Mike White. You mentioned him hanging in the pocket like we just showed there, and how that kind of endears him to the linemen and the tight ends. From an off-the-field perspective and a non-X's and O's perspective, how does that, I don't want to say galvanize the team, but how does that kind of push things more into his favor when you juxtapose it with a quarterback like Zach Wilson, who didn't necessarily say the right things in that post-game, media scrum after his last start, and who is more shakier in the pocket? How much do things like that, those little intangible moments, kind of push the team more into his favor and in support of him?
It matters so much because these guys want to go the extra mile, so he stays out there. And they understand that Mike White was drafted in the 5th round, was cut by Dallas. I believe he was even cut by the Jets at one point. Really had to fight to win the 3rd-string job out of summer, and it was a dogfight, and it was real close. So I think that a lot of the guys on the team relate to his story and understand what it took for him to get there. He wasn't just inserted in there. And then the football side of it, right, is that play by play, you have to be locked in by every play because the ball could be coming your way. I mean, he's throwing to everybody, and not everybody's getting their Garrett Wilson 70 to 100 plus yards every game, but Denzel Mims is getting his targets. Corey Davis, Elijah Moore had 10 targets in this game. Garrett Wilson, both tight ends, all the running backs. So, and I think the linemen peeling him off the turf, they know Mike White gives them the best chance to win. So they want to do a better job in protection to keep him on the field. So you're absolutely right. It's galvanized the team. Although they're 1-2 in his starts, man, I'm not sure the game against Minnesota or the game up in Buffalo is as close with Zach Wilson under center. I just don't believe that.
Very well said. And now we pivot to someone who has been a stud for the Jets since day one. I know there was debate among some draft evaluators. Was it Sauce or Derek Stingley that was CB1 and who was CB2? And it really didn't matter. They were both so tremendous. I remember in evaluating Sauce, I got so bored in a good way watching his Cincinnati tape. Because I was just like,
it looks so easy.
Yeah. I'm like, there's Sauce in phase and not getting a ball.
It wouldn't throw it.
No, exactly. But one aspect of his game that I don't think gets talked about a lot, and that we're going to show on this play, he's truly a complete corner. Like his ability to play the run or play the screen game, he comes up, he's physical, he's forceful. And this play here, like the hustle, the pursuit angle, the effort, everything that you want to see as he tracks a speedy guy in Isaiah McKenzie all the way across the field. These are the kind of plays that I don't think get talked about a lot when it comes to him. And granted, because his coverage skill is so tremendous and his ability and his length and size and all that. But, just what do you see here in terms of really pointing towards what a complete player he already is so young in his career?
You nailed it. The Jets were in trouble on this play, if not for Sauce. Really big trouble. When you look at, number one, CJ and Whitehead, and as good of a player Whitehead is, he takes the bait like this quite a bit. So CJ and Whitehead both bite inside on the play action or the inside run. And you see Sauce with the awareness of number 6. He's like, if I don't get over in a hurry, we're in really big trouble. Because 79 is out in front on DJ Reed. DJ Reed's 5'9". He's not going to survive that matchup. Look at the strides. This is the thing with Sauce. You can evaluate a player that's a high-end corner and just see them kind of lull you to sleep, like you guys said, because technically they're so good, but they don't look like this. I mean, those are some of the strangest high cut, biggest stride, gazelle-like strides that you'll see from a defensive back in NFL, maybe NFL history at times. The only guy I could think of that suited up for the Jets like this was Antonio Cromartie, and Sauce is a better tackler. Yeah, they just had that weird, wiry, and I know a play we're going to show is even going to even bring back Crow memories in terms of the length and makeup speed. He has incredible speed. He likes to tackle. He likes to be involved in the play, maybe because it's Cincinnati. Nobody threw the ball his way, so he was so excited to get to the NFL and finally get to make plays on the football. But this is a great play to point out because it's IQ, it's hustle, it's effort, and my goodness, if he doesn't make this play, it could be much, much bigger.
And it's impactful at the tackle point. Like, he slams him down.
And the best thing about this too, because like when you're an evaluator, you're scouting all the time, almost every day, I'm sure. This is one of those type of plays. Like, normally it's coverage. Like, how is he covering a crosser? A guy with McKenzie's speed, how is he covering a crosser? He's out leveraged from the jump. And he's not just trying to get straight across. What he's doing, he's actually coming down towards the line of scrimmage at full speed. So he's closing that gap. Then he flattens out right there and makes a tackle. And as you said, if he doesn't, I mean, look at this. Look at the alley, guys. Like, this is a big, big play. Great recognition. And he recognized it right from the jump. His eyes were on that tackle and watching those guys kind of flow down the line of scrimmage. And eventually he makes the play. Just phenomenal stuff. As Anthony said, great cover guy. But when your corners do that and play with that effort and have that type of athleticism, you can do a lot as a defensive coordinator. And we've seen it all year from the Jets defense. And on this play, I mean, it's hard. This would be a touchdown if he doesn't get back on John Brown with John Brown's speed. And right here at this, what I call the moment of truth, he needs to decide, am I going to take the sail route right here by Dawson Knox, or am I going to stay deep? He and the safety make the right call here. The safety cuts on that out route by Dawson Knox, and now you're going to see the corner get back there, Sauce Gardner get back there, and he's just so poised, though, at the catch point, right, Connor? Like, he's so poised, just puts his hand up there, and eventually the momentum of them falling to the ground, that's going to draw the ball loose.
That's exactly right. He's so smart on the back end, and he has all the traits, whether it's the makeup speed, the length, the recognition. And this was something that was a little bit of a problem the first couple of weeks of the season, was the communication with the safeties. And the funny thing to me, guys, was it was always the safety's fault, not Sauce. Sauce didn't look like the rookie out there. These plays, he's had quite a few of these this year against multiple teams, and it always frustrates the other fan base because they think it should be interference. But even though he doesn't get his head around, look how long his arms are and the timing. The timing is right there as the ball comes in. You're allowed to disrupt the catch point. And one thing about Sauce that a lot of people don't know is, when he gets on the field and he kind of understands or even chats to the refs of what they're allowed to do, what they're allowed to get away with, how they're going to call it. I know it was a big emphasis in the Denver game where he had battle after battle with Cortland Sutton. So this is one of those situations where he doesn't grab. He doesn't really contest too early. He's just playing the football at the right time. And maybe a bigger wide receiver like a Claypool did get him once, like goes up and gets that. But that's makeup speed and timing. And those are two of his best traits. And they're almost in a rare category for Sauce Gardner.
Yeah. Sauce has been tremendous. I don't have anything too much to add on this other than he takes like 2 steps and catches up with John Brown because he's a monster of a man. But talk a little bit. This secondary was completely revamped. You have the addition of Sauce Gardner, but then you have returning LaMarcus Joyner. They bring in Whitehead, the DJ Reed acquisition. And this play was a good example. You've got Joyner, number 29 there, picking up that backside dig. You have the communication between Whitehead and Sauce in terms of who is passing off and who's going to pick up who. DJ Reed is just kind of, hanging out there on this play, but he's been solid all year. Talk about that secondary as a whole, just a group last year that was not strong. Robert Saleh, tremendous defensive coordinator, horrible defense last year, and Sauce is getting a lot of the praise, as is Quinnen Williams. But for me, it's holistically what they did on the back end that's really helped a lot. They've added quality in terms of talent, but also in terms of football IQ, and you saw it on that play.
100%. Reed is just as important as Sauce, and not a lot of people will say that because he's not a rookie. He doesn't have the nickname. He's 5'9" playing on the outside, so people are always a little surprised by that. Sure. But this is a defense. Yeah, you nailed it. This defense was horrible last year. They had their pass rushers up front injured. They started significantly less talented players in the secondary. They did not communicate. They didn't have a lot of talent. They didn't find the football. And the difference is this year, they went out, drafted a corner, and signed a corner. And Michael Carter in the slot's been really solid as well. They aren't just man corners or zone corners. They have great eyes in zone. They have great awareness in zone. They have physicality and speed to play man. They have the confidence to play man. And, Salah's really evolved. Salah's had that reputation where he came from the Seattle system and they're going to sit and cover 3 all day and the front 4 has to get home. Nobody could do that anymore in the NFL. You'll get eaten alive. So Salah's really evolved into this quarters and cover 1 kind of coordinator, or now Ulbricht's the coordinator, but Salah still has his hands on the defense when need be, where they get aggressive in spots and then they'll play quarters in spots as well. And obviously the Jets split with them, but I think as a whole, the Jets have probably had the most success defensively against Josh Allen this year, it feels like, and trying to limit, and Josh's run on them, absolutely, but in terms of pass defense, and that's just because of the different looks they could throw at you, and how Reed and Sauce, there's not really a distinguished side of the field you want to target. I think both those guys are playing at almost equal levels right now.
Yeah, and you guys are talking about the secondary, but one guy that just kept standing out in the middle of the field was CJ Mosley. And I don't think he's getting enough love this year. I know he's lost some weight, but man, anytime Josh was getting to his second or third read over the middle of the field, Mosley would be standing right there, and Josh couldn't throw it. That's why you look at his spray chart and his distribution chart, and you're seeing all the passes there on the outside, along the boundaries, just outside the hook to curl area. Talk about CJ Mosley and how important he's been to this defense and how he kind of, gels everyone together and ties everything together.
I was going to say, he really is the glue in between the front and the back end, because they're young in the middle of the field. And that was my big fear coming into the season. I thought this defense would be really weak in the middle of the field. I thought Joyner would struggle a lot more. I thought Whitehead was more of a downhill player. Quincy Williams and Quan Alexander playing next to CJ, those guys have a ton of speed, but we know their deficiencies as well in terms of working through traffic and taking on contact. And I thought CJ got a tough rap last year when people said he had a down year. He was just playing with no talent around him and constantly put in messy situations that were not his fault. So he's the glue guy. He's the leader. He's the communicator. He gets everybody set up front. I think he understands his secondary behind him and what he needs to do in the middle of the field, when he could be aggressive, when he has to kind of sit back. So Mosley's their leader, a veteran presence on a defense that is very young. Sauce is 22, Reed is 25, Michael Carter's under 25, Quinton Williams, I think, turns 25 this month. They're a bunch of kids out there, essentially, with grown man CJ Mosley, who I think is still 29, but feels like he's been playing a high level of football for 15 years.
15 years.
Going back to Alabama. So Mosley's the glue guy. Maybe I wouldn't say lost a step, but not as fast as he truly once was, or impactful. But that veteran presence just makes such a difference for a young team.
I feel like he's always combating and going against Josh Allen. It's always like,
it's
almost like, the Ray Lewis days when he'd always going against like a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning. I swear, like, CJ Mosley's in Josh Allen's face every time you see him, whether it's running the ball after a scramble, or like I said, just his eyes are in the middle of the field. He wants to throw the ball there, and he just can't because of CJ.
It feels like defenders definitely get up a level when Josh is across from them. It's reached that kind of level of him on the field where him, Mahomes, I feel like Burrow's going to get there really soon, although he plays a totally different style of football. When you see those guys across the way, if you don't bring your best, you forget losing. You don't want to be embarrassed. And I think that's the point we've reached with teams playing against Josh Allen.
Yeah, and especially for dudes like CJ Mosley, who he was so good in Baltimore, and then he comes in to the Jets in that Le'Veon Bell free agency year, and things don't work out. Mosley gets banged up, Bell doesn't work out, the team kind of fizzles, and I think I don't want to say got lost in the shuffle, but kind of got put on the back burner in terms of how good of a linebacker he can be. And now he's healthier. Like Eric mentioned, he's lost a bit of weight, and now he gets to be the glue guy and the veteran presence among this defense that's full of young sharks, led by a tremendous defensive coach. And it's legitimately exciting to see for him and what he's been able to do. And Connor, we appreciate you joining us tonight. You are a tremendously busy man. You work on like 75 different things and you crush all of them.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. We are legitimate fans of you. here at Cover One. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. And, we appreciated a lot of what the Jets did in this game, and we couldn't think anyone better to break it down with. And just in case people don't know you or what you do or who you are and all that, the floor is yours. Plug away anything and everything that you got.
Anytime, guys. Yeah, you can follow me at Connor J. Rogers. All my work is right there on Twitter. And, Jets Bills week, which we are fortunate enough to get twice a year now. Robert Saleh begging for a third time after the game. I don't know if you guys
We don't want
that.
it. We don't want it. No,
I mean, we'll see if the Jets can get in the playoffs, but I love Jets Bills week. You guys do an amazing job. I'm sure it feels like a rivalry on the field and for 98% of the fans, but the crossover content that I get to do with you guys and Greg as well, obviously, and Aaron and everybody, it's awesome. So I really appreciate you guys, and thanks for having me on, and I know we'll catch up again soon.
Absolutely. Speaking of catching up, before I get you out of here, are you going to Mobile this year?
Betcha.
Are we going to see you at Veets?
You betcha. If you guys are there, let's have a beer. I really need to book that flight. It's amazing.
I know, so do I.
Oh my God. It's been on a tab on this computer for like a full month, and I just don't go through the whole process. I will book the flight. I will never miss the Senior Bowl. So I'm looking forward to catching up with you guys if you're going to be there.
Absolutely, Connor. We'll see you down there, brother.
All right, later, boys. Have a good one.
You too, man. Man, back-to-back tremendous guests. A breaking news guest from the Bills media, a tremendous football analyst guest from technically the Jets side of things, but just overall NFL. This has been quite the start for this episode, Eric. And we've just got so much more great content to get through in the rest of this episode as well. This is just absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, we're not even halfway done yet, guys.
No.
We got a ton more film for you guys. Chef Chevy TV, he said, yo, I made it. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, I know a lot of people are probably still filtering in here. Normally we start at 9. We had to go a little early so we could get our guests in here, but man, it's been fun. And this is the type of stuff we want to do more of. We want to bring in some other creators from Bills Mafia, but also from other teams that kind of have their perspective. And I mean, Connor is one of the best in the game when it comes to not just covering the Jets and the NFL, but man, he's a really good scout too when we're talking NFL draft.
Yeah, he knows his stuff. And I think it's good to get people who are good for teams that they cover or represent, but it's also just to get good people who genuinely and generally know ball. And yeah, I was really, really happy to get Connor on. You and I were talking in text last week talking about potential guests, and it was like, yeah, but it can get weird if like the other team loses. Maybe like a guest doesn't want to come on if their team loses, but I guess lucky for us, Connor was willing to do it. But also, there were some genuine good plays on both sides of the ball to highlight for the Jets in this losing effort. And they're a good team on both sides of the ball. They're starting to improve a little bit on offense with Mike White, but they got some studs on both sides of the ball. And if they solidify the quarterback piece and they get healthy on the offensive line to just be, even if that offense is just average with what they have on defense, this team is a problem, not just in the AFC East, but in the AFC for potentially years to come.
And because they have that formula that you hear every year right around playoff time. I wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs because they play smash mouth physical football. They're aggressive, they're fast, and they just are always downhill. And when you think you may have knocked them down and they may be out, they come back with another wave of guys and pass rushers against Josh Allen. They don't go away. And they really resemble their coach, and he's a really good coach, well respected for a reason, man.
And both games that the Bills saw the Jets this year, they didn't even have one of our draft favorites, Mr. Breece Hall, who was the entire offense this year. And then we'll see what he comes back next year from the injury, but they'll be adding that piece. Like it's this team that you said it exactly right. Like I don't want to play the Jets in the playoffs. Good defense travels, nastiness, violence, physicality travels, toughness travels. Man, that's a team people aren't going to want to play.
Yeah, and it's a great segue because that's why the theme for the rest of this show, we're going to be talking about the Bills defense. It was physicality. The Bills, as much as we're talking up the Jets and how physical they were, the Bills defense, especially the front seven, especially the defensive line, really set the tone from the beginning. And I think this was based on what this little clip we're going to show you here. I think this goes back to that last drive, that scoring drive of the last matchup between them, and how the Jets just at will ran the ball down there and scored some points, got that field goal to kind of win that game and put the pressure on the Bills offense, and they weren't able to do it. I feel like the Bills defense all week, Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier, they really stressed winning the line of scrimmage and controlling that and really setting that tone.
Yeah, you saw even even early on with just the amount of blitzes and the physicality coming forward against the run, linebackers and Taron Johnson, I mean, as always, and edges meeting pullers right in the hole and attacking shoulders and just that level of violence and physicality. You saw that. And again, that's what it should be, if you're talking about like run fits and all those pieces. But you saw a little extra oomph, and it would make sense given, we broke down that last Jets game here in the film room and that last drive, and it was just run after run right down your throat and missed execution. And honestly, just the Jets owning the line of scrimmage. And you can tell that there was a little potentially, if we're reading between the lines, a little bit more motivation this week for the Bills defense to own the line of scrimmage and return the favor.
Yeah, and so watch, and Anthony, you led it perfectly. Like, watch Sean McDermott's answer to this, but watch his facial expression. Just watch him on this clip.
So we talked about the physical play of the defensive front in particular. I remember talking in New York after they kind of rained it on you late. You talked about winning the battle on the line of scrimmage. How would you assess that part of the game?
Yeah, again, without looking at the film, it was what we were looking for.
You saw the little smirk. You saw if he just
little smirk, man.
Just a little bit. It cracked a little bit, and then he quickly shut it back down. Yeah, he was pleased with this performance, and again, rightfully so. From the front to the second level to the way Poyer was attacking, as you see him already coming to the line of scrimmage in this clip, like you saw a concerted effort to control the line of scrimmage and be physical and take it to the Jets up front.
Yeah, and so let's start with this play here. It's a play that the Jets, again, dominated the Bills with in that first matchup. It's a gap type run, counter trade type look, and just watch the interior defensive linemen at Oliver and DaQuan Jones on this play and how they, again, dominate the line of scrimmage, disengage from blocks, and blow up this entire run.
Ed Oliver gets upfield so fast on this play, which he had several reps like that. Another one we're going to take a peek at later, but he gets upfield so fast that it forces CJ Uzomah, number 87, the tight end who's pulling here, it forces him into action as you highlight him right there. It forces him into action on Ed Oliver. So he has to take out Ed, and Ed gets crushed. But then here comes DaQuan Jones, who all game was working with leverage. He gets under the center, goes through him with that quick arm over, and then that piece of like the finality is beautiful. Oh, love DaQuan Jones. Also, huge shout out for the red sleeves, the Matthew Judon effect. Love it on DaQuan Jones. Makes him stand out and pop on film. But you see him right here on the snap. He gets underneath the center, which is not easy for a big man. You see the leverage. Low man wins. Quickly sheds him with a quick arm over. And then he's into the backfield to make this play. And then look at the rest of the Bills' bodies rallying. You see Gregory Rousseau separate and get in there. You see Taron Johnson and Edmunds. You see the run fits. You see the physicality. Everybody meeting at the ball carrier after taking on their blocks and setting the tone in the run fit. You saw this level of finishing against the run consistently in this game.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And so the next play is similar look. Again, this is early in the game, still first quarter, 4:16 on the clock. 2nd and 4 situation here. And just watch Tim Settle, who is at nose tackle right here behind the sky cam, and then Milano versus this run. Just, again, clogging things up, playing on the Jets line of scrimmage, and just compressing this gap. Look at how, they get the down block right here at the point of attack on Settle, but watch how he holds his ground. And so this is the entry point the running back wants to hit right here. Look at the tight fill right here by Matt Milano and how he works. He makes a tackle through the blocker.
He gets the leg like a dog on a boat.
He comes right through, proper shoulder, takes on that block, and then you can see, again, Settle compressing this hole here. That's exactly what the nose tackle is supposed to do on this play. So you have Milano and Settle compressing that gap there, a little disruption from Basham, and they are able to blow up this play, again, right at the line of scrimmage.
That's the potential downside when you run these gap runs because it's designed to go to a specific hole. And if that specific hole gets muddied or if it gets squeezed and tightened like you get on this play, you have an easy opportunity to get disrupted if you're the offense. You hit everything to Settle just anchoring down and working through Milano. Milano had a couple reps like this where he's just meeting Uzomah in the hole.
Good, dude.
Dude, he's crushing it this year.
Watch his eyes, watch his helmet. He sees the sniffer. This is the sniffer right here. He knows that is generally the key to the play, especially based on this offense. Look at him right there. Key that tight end. Tight end's already kind of looking. He's kind of cheating to his right, coming across the formation. Dude, he beats him to the freaking hole. Like, Matt Milano, we gush about him every week, but he deserves segments every week because he just makes so many plays in the run and pass game.
It's cool to see him finally getting some more national recognition. You're seeing people on Twitter, or whether it's the pundits who cover the primetime games, talk about him in a light that he deserves. He's been playing at a high level for several years, and you're just seeing him flash over and over and over again. He and Settle are key. I also like how you gave a bit of a shout out to Basham on this play. I like how he avoids the kick out block, but doesn't allow himself to get too widened from it. He avoids it, but still is able to stay within his path and still help to squeeze this down. Exactly. He forces Zonathan Knight to have to go to that hole. He doesn't give him another opportunity, and that plays into Settle and Milano both making plays here. And Eric, this is a really good example of something we've talked about so much. DaQuan Jones said it when he was on the show. Fitting the run is a mentality, and it's a state of mind, and it takes an entire defense. It takes everyone. Run fits are not just one person, although we're going to show one for Tremaine Edmunds later where he made a play almost all by himself. But run fits are a team job, and it was executed on that previous play.
Yeah, and here's another one of those plays, 3rd and 4 situation where normally Milano, you see him right here. Normally he's where Edmunds is in this Cub front. It's kind of their 5-man surface front, and they like to blitz Milano from Edmunds' spot, but they're sending Edmunds here. But watch how Milano gets into this passing lane in the slot right there. See him right there, just drift just a little bit, and that forces Mike White to make a throw up and over Tremaine Edmunds. First of all, you'll see it from the end zone angle, but he's got to make it all the way to the far sideline, and he's not able to do it with tight coverage there. Just really good play on 3rd and 4, and just showing off Milano, again, getting out into space, and how Leslie Frazier kind of tweaked things a little bit. This is a little different. Normally, this is Matt Milano rushing, but they use Edmunds here, and Edmunds' length was evident in this game, again, as not just as a pass rusher, but also in the passing game.
We saw it several times in coverage, like we have for a majority of the year, but you see it on these blitzes time and time again. And I think this is one, too, where detractors of Tremaine Edmunds will be like, well, he didn't get home, he didn't do anything. But that length shows up in a real way. And watch how, so he blitzes, attacks his man, and then watch him read. He sees where Mike White is, reads it, loops around like you highlighted, because he's trying to get in the passing window and he's trying to get in the lane. He sees Mike White load up and go to make that throw, and he just sticks his long pterodactyl arms out. Yeah. And as you highlighted it, Mike White has a man breaking open over the middle, but Mike White can't see him because there's a pterodactyl with his wings in his face. So he has to fit that ball to the outside. And then when he tries to fit it to the outside, Matt Milano has conveniently gotten to depth and dropped into that window underneath. So now he has to layer this throw. And this isn't even like a knock on Mike White. This is a decently hard throw. Like, you're middle of the field. You got to make it to the far sideline on a rope. Dane Jackson's in good coverage. Like, this was a well-timed call and well-executed call from Milano, Edmunds, and then Dane on the outside as well.
Yeah, I really like that front. I hope they actually, run that a little more often.
Edmunds blitzed a lot in this game. Like the Bills did as a team decently, but it seemed like Edmunds was coming, whether it was designs or green dogs. He was green lit a lot in this game.
They always do that for some reason. Versus it goes back to Sam Darnold days when they were there. For some reason, Tremaine Edmunds and Matt Milano, their blitz rates are a lot higher versus the Jets, and maybe that's because for a while there, the Jets only had tight ends that blocked. So anytime they blocked, they'd add on as a rusher. Yeah. But we did see those green dogs where, the linebackers would have running backs in coverage, and those guys were staying in the block. So they got the green light to rush. And so I think Edmunds ended with 9 or so rushes on the quarterback. And again, that length played a factor here. Yes. So this is Greg Rousseau's sack here. And just Rousseau, talk about him, man. He had one hell of a game, and they need him to step up, right?
It takes a village to replace Von Miller. In a perfect world, Rousseau elevates his game like he has, these past couple of weeks. And he gets the cleanup sack here, but you need everybody. And they've honestly gotten that. AJ Epenesa's played better. Shaq has had back-to-back tremendous games. Ed Oliver has had a good game this week as well. And you see him working in conjunction with Rousseau on this play. Just the get off again. Jeez. Ridiculous.
Trying to back block Ed Oliver, who's in a 4-eye. Like, that is a dumb move, first of all, a dumb play call.
Fair.
That is he's so wide. You want your center to do that? Mitch Morse is a fantastic center, and I've only seen him actually complete this block a few times. It's a big ask on Ed Oliver.
Yeah, you're setting your center up for failure on this one. But if you go to the sideline camera angle if you can, and go forward in slow motion and just go on the stop it there. Look, so the ball is not even yet in Mike White's hands. It's still about a yard away. Look where Ed Oliver already is. And DaQuan Jones is in decent position as well, but Ed Oliver's almost fully across the line of scrimmage. This center has no chance. The backs in the backfield, the tight end and the running back, aren't even moving yet. Nobody's really actioning except for Ed Oliver. He gets so much penetration so quickly. He gets upfield so fast. And that's been his calling card, right? His quickness, his get off, in addition to some hand technique and violence. But Rousseau gets the box score stat on this one with the sack, but it starts with Ed Oliver's disruption, just with that ridiculous get off, combined with the Jets asking their center to perform a decently unreasonable task.
Yeah, and you can see the coverage is pretty good here on this play. I really like the coverage from Trey White up top on Garrett Wilson. In his, he's in trail technique there. Good coverage there. And yeah, Rousseau gets a cleanup sack here, but I mean, he was a force all game here.
Yes.
Yes, this is Ed Oliver, kind of the driving force here. But it's just weird when Greg Rousseau has these cleanup sacks. It's like, okay, normally that quarterback, he's getting outside, he's breaking contain, but then out of nowhere, Rousseau can just disengage and then use that length to just wrap up quarterbacks and just take him down to the ground with one leg, like just wrap that leg up and take him down. Like he does know how to clean up and finish in these type of situations. And it's hard for quarterbacks to get outside the pocket because of his length and ability to keep control on that offensive lineman. Even if, he's processing run to pass here as it's a play action pass, you see him still have the upper hand and disengaging from the right tackle there to finish this play.
It's not, it's to the point where, because he had cleanup sacks at Miami.
Yeah.
And he's not getting these cleanup sacks like just by happenstance. Like he puts himself in the right position and he plays to his length and he plays to his size. And this is so tremendously important, not just for this individual game in a vacuum, but when you have to play these quarterbacks that can get outside the pocket and create off script and out of structure, like everybody's favorite quarterback in Bills Mafia, Patrick Mahomes, when you've got quarterbacks who can break, contain, and do stuff outside the pocket, you need to be able to maintain that edge or have somebody who can make that read and cut down that angle with a couple steps because they're as tall as a tree, or with their arm length, or with IQ. Luckily for Greg Rousseau, he has all three. And you see him make this play on, Mike White. And again, it's in conjunction with Ed Oliver, but this is a point where, cleanup sack in terms of being applied to Greg Rousseau is not a negative. And it's not taking away saying like, well, he can't win with moves or pass rush plan. It's a genuine piece of his skill set at this point because of his ability to read the play and play to his strengths physically.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And so with that said, let's take a quick break here from to get a little message in here from Greg Thompson about BetUS.
Hey guys, Cover One is excited to announce our new partnership with BetUS. BetUS has a live wagering on all major games, the best betting variety in the business, and an easy deposit and withdrawal process with the fastest payouts in the industry. Our loyal Cover One fans get a choice between two exclusive offers, either a 125% sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,500 or a free $50 bet with no deposit required. Just use promo code COVER1 on the links provided in the show description below. BetUS, where the game begins.
Tremendously proud of that partnership that we have.
Yeah, man. It's like Nickel City Cigars, BetUS, One Pie Pizza, like we do have some pretty amazing sponsors here at Cover One.
Yeah, and it's by design. We like to say, we pride ourselves in the work that we put out as a brand, and we try to match that with brands and groupings that we bring on for sponsorships. It's not just, to preach a message for the sake of preaching a message or for monetary reasons. It's, because we believe in the product. So it's awesome to have, partnerships like that we're able to push forward and allow us to give benefits to our fan base and subscribers who help us out.
No doubt. And speaking of partnerships, Matt Milano, Tremaine Edmunds, some of the better
partnered
linebackers in the league here. Here is a 2-yard loss courtesy of Tremaine Edmunds. And I just love him coming downhill. And the nose tackle, is this CJ Brewer, I believe it is, 98.
Correct.
He takes one for the team here.
He
takes one for the team here. But Edmunds comes downhill, leverages the play, sees the ball, gets ball, ends the play.
This is a play that I feel like so many people have always knocked Tremaine Edmunds for. Like, oh, he doesn't make the Fred Warner play or the Shaq Leonard play where the snap happens and he clicks and closes and shoots the gap. You got it on this one. You see the flash of color from CJ Uzama. I also love Milano rocking the white arm sleeve and then also calling it out on this play, communicating.
Back call, yep.
Yep, he's nailing it. And you're seeing Edmunds process this and diagnose it, shoots the gap, and you've got George Fant, number 76. He's trying to climb to that second level to pick up Edmunds on this run, but Edmunds processes it so quickly and shoots the gap that he's able to get underneath Fant in time. Fant can't climb to that second level, and you bring up the sideline angle, which really hits it. Boom. Yeah, he just can't get there in time, and then Edmunds gets to the tackle point. It's a huge gaping space because CJ Brewer, like you said, took one for the team. Edmunds wraps his pterodactyl wings around Michael Carter and brings him down. Again, nice play. Quick processing, clicks and closes, detonates on contact. What a lot of people have been asking for from him for a long time.
Yeah, and you guys saw the couple plays to start this breakdown, those gap runs where that sniffer was coming across and taking them to the play. So now they're not. They're using that split flow. They want the linebackers to chase that, thinking the ball's going that direction. And you see the back call from Milano because as a sniffer, the tight end comes across the formation. One gap's lost on that side. They have to bump a gap to their left, and they do. And that doesn't confuse Tremaine Edmunds at all. This guy's playing on another level, guys. The people need to start respecting him a little more. He comes downhill, ends the play there. Great work from him. And we talked about gap runs. Well, let's look at another one of those plays here. Another gap run, and oh my God, Matt Milano is just unreal. So he's playing sack linebacker here. Again, watch his helmet, keying that sniffer, that tight end. That guy takes him to the ball, but watch how out of his peripheral as he's getting downhill because he sees that counter, that gap run coming to the left here, and he sees this guy scoop into the next level. Watch him avoid him just nonchalantly and smoothly, just like whoop, tight angle around that. He beats that blocker to the hole again, takes on the block with the proper shoulder, helps blow this play up. This is a 2nd and 1 call. Tim Settle, Matt Milano, Carlos Basham, guys are getting to the ball. They shut this play down and force 3rd and I think 1 or 2.
Correct. Milano avoids the tackle and then seamlessly transitions into his run fit. Like he uses that move, plants on that left leg, and then uses it to drive into the hole. Meet Uzama in the hole. This is mucked up. Good job by Basham again, holding strong on the kick out block. He stands tall. He sets the edge. Nice forceful play from him. You get Milano, bang, right in the hole. And there you go. Highlight Mr. Tim Settle coming through. Again, you're getting good leverage play up front. Even Milano, like we're highlighting the physical piece, but he's got proper leverage on Uzama with the way he attacks him on that half spot of his body in the similar way that he attacked him earlier in the clip that we showed where he attacks that shoulder. You're playing physical and you're playing violent, but you're also playing with technique and you're playing with intent. It's not just one would have come up and just smack this dude. No, you have to play with leverage. You have to take the proper angles, play within your team defense. And you see it from several players on this play again, including Milano, mucking this whole thing up. Settle just relentless, working through his man. You saw this consistently. We're showing these specific runs, but this happened time and time again. It's the reason we're showing it. The Bills really own the line of scrimmage against these gap runs, which is something that had given them trouble, honestly, these last several weeks, starting with the Green Bay game coming out of the bye week.
Yes, and it's great. That's a great point. They rectified that situation. You know what? Teams had kind of, strung together some explosive runs, and we're talking big runs from that Green Bay game or from that Jets game on. And to see them get down into practice and put it on the field on game day, improve in that area because it's something that it's a copycat league, guys. They say it all the time, and a lot of those times, if explosive plays are happening, you're going to see those explosive plays until you shut it down. And the Bills just shut down the gap runs in this game. They shut down really the Jets run game almost altogether, aside from a few RPO type runs where they had super light boxes or they had Taron Johnson as a stack linebacker inside, like just leverage type situations, more scheme related stuff than personnel and execution on the field. So with that said, on to the next play. This is Matt Milano special again. You're going to see him just a piss missile. We talk about Josh Allen throwing those piss missiles. This is Matt Milano adding on as a rusher and just folding Mike White. You'll see it better from the end zone angle. And again, I don't know if this is the play that Frazier was talking about where, Edmunds blitzed. They kind of had like a nonverbal communication between the two of them and added on. But either way, look at Matt Milano get downhill and affect the quarterback here. Hitting the quarterback like this obviously is going to affect passes. It's going to affect his health. And the Bills did that. That was the biggest difference in this game. They not only pressured and got in Mike White's face, but they put him to the turf time and time again.
I legitimately respect Mike White for hanging in there on this play. The play earlier that we showed with Connor, there's another one where he gets crushed by DaQuan Jones in a similar fashion. He was just getting speared left and right in this game, and he kept hanging in the pocket. This is just gorgeous from Matt Milano. This play is clean and violent in any era of the NFL. This hit is gorgeous if you're talking 1970s football when there was no rules. This is gorgeous in the 90s or the 2000s, and it's gorgeous now. I was actually surprised that I love how you just froze frame it on him being folded right there. I was actually surprised at how many people thought this was a dirty call or dirty hit or a dirty play. White still has the ball in his hand. Milano is pressuring him and hitting him to force this early throw, which leads to an incompletion.
He didn't even land on him. He rolled over. He rolled over the top of him.
He just hit him hard. And in today's day and age, you can't go low on the quarterback or hit him in the knees. You can't get anywhere near the head. Even if your hand touches their head, there's a chance you're going to get called for roughing the passer. You can only hit them in their torso, and that's literally what he does. This is picture perfect textbook football. And what's all like for today's NFL, but what's also great about it is, like you said, because it was so forceful and violent and they took him to the ground, this is the play that plays in any era of football. This is one of the most picture perfect violent quarterback hits I've ever seen. And it's also even better because it was clean. Just a beautiful job from Matt Milano.
Yeah, really good stuff on that play. So on to the next play. We're in the third quarter now, guys. 4:41 on the clock, third quarter. And this is our Nickel City Cigars light up play of the game. This is Gregory Rousseau's strip sack here, right here off the edge, off the left side of the defense here. And it's something that he does quite frequently. Obviously takes advantage of Ed Oliver's penetration, getting up the field from that wide alignment. And he loops back inside. And these are the type of impact plays that they need from Gregory Rousseau. So watch Ed Oliver get up the field, and he compromises that pocket, opens up the middle of the field so that Rousseau can press up inside here and kind of, spin inside here. But he doesn't do it immediately. He times it quite well. So he gets into the right tackle, compresses the pocket, but then realizes where Mike White is in the pocket and how he's up, a yard or so in the pocket. So then that's when he disengages, pushes that right tackle by, and he's able to make the big hit on the quarterback there. And I think this is actually Flacco in the pocket, right? So yeah, big hit on Flacco, which Flacco's a big quarterback, but Gregory Rousseau is a lot bigger, and he had the upper hand here.
Yeah, Joe Flacco's a big man, and he gets swallowed by Greg Rousseau because Rousseau is a monster. You hit my favorite point on this play again. Ed Oliver with get off and gets upfield with leverage. He drives his man so far back that it allows Rousseau to read this, and he cuts right off him. So credit to Ed Oliver, but again, credit to Greg Rousseau. And this is something that, you and I broke down not a play similar to this, but Greg Rousseau, the very first preseason game last year against the Lions, his ability to engage with linemen and being able to extend and use his length and then read the quarterback's path and be able to shed and make plays in a variety of ways. He's so good at that. And you see it on this one. He uses that wide alignment, attacks his man, who is immediately, this tackle is trying to kick step so far back to not get beat around the edge. He's off platform. All Rousseau has to do is engage and use some leverage, drives him back, and then he cuts right off of Ed Oliver. It's almost like a beautiful stunt, 5-6 yards in the backfield. It's just gorgeous. And his ability, to recognize the path that he needs. He sees it right there. He doesn't even hit Ed Oliver. He doesn't stumble into him. It's a seamless transition, like a beautiful, almost like upfield stunt from the two of them. And again, another example of the wide alignment really working for the Bills this year. When you use that wide alignment, this right guard and this right tackle are on islands against Ed Oliver and Greg Rousseau. But what's important is when they're on those islands, Rousseau and Oliver have to win. They both won on this play, and it led to a strip sack and a turnover that the Bills needed. This game was 14-7. It was close. The offense wasn't really gelling or, kind of flowing at that point. This really helped start to turn some things around.
Yeah, and you always hear Sean McDermott talk about complementary football when it comes to pass rush and coverage. And so I'm not going to go away from this play until I throw some credit to Tre'Davious White versus Garrett Wilson up top. Bills are in press coverage here, and their disruption, and Taron Johnson and Trey White their disruption of those wide receivers was critical to Flacco holding on to the ball here, because they want to get it to Wilson there. And you see Trey White, he's physical with Wilson here, almost to the point where a lot of people are saying, oh, how come they didn't call the flag? And I know Wilson was pissed a flag wasn't called here. But that played into the pass rush here, and Gregory Rousseau cleaning up on this pass rush. But this is the type of complement that you need from pass rush and coverage standpoint. But more importantly, going forward from a defensive line, you need Ed Oliver and Rousseau and all of those pieces that the Bills invested along the defensive line to complement each other, to work off each other. This isn't a planned stunt. This is the Rousseau and Ed Oliver playing off each other. And again, in the grand scheme of things, along with the coverage, really leads to this play here from Rousseau. Nice strip sack, recovery by DaQuan Jones. The nickel City Cigars play of the game here. Just great stuff from, again, everyone doing their 111th to create that turnover.
That's a hugely important piece, right? Like, especially as you go forward and you play explosive offenses or better offenses. No disrespect to the Jets. You need to have your back end and the front, working in a symbiotic relationship with one another. If you are vulnerable or too susceptible in one area, it kind of alters or mitigates the effectiveness of the other. And that's a great play right there. We're highlighting Oliver and Rousseau, but that play doesn't happen if Taron Johnson and Trey White aren't in the kitchen of both receivers and making Joe Flacco have to, double clutch that ball. If he hits his drop and he fires it out, everything that Oliver and Rousseau did on that play is irrelevant.
Yeah. And before we get out of here, I do want to say, we appreciate everyone joining us here in the film room. I know some of you guys are kind of filtering that in now. We're sorry about that. We had to switch our schedule around a little bit, go a little early. But we did want to get to some of the film there about the defense, because the offense has had their struggles the last few weeks. And there was some good plays, and they pulled it out. That's all that matters. The red zone's looking a lot better. A lot of those numbers are getting better. But we want to, from time to time, show the defense here, because the defense is elite and they have a lot of elite players. And as we've been pointing out the last hour or so, when it came to this defensive film, the defensive line and that front seven really set the tone in this game. And I don't think that can be said about the Bills offensive line. So when it came to this game, that's why we picked the defense on this play in this film room.
Yeah, they just dominated, honestly, like up front. Again, like the name of this episode is the Bills defense won the battle at the line of scrimmage. And that's literally what they did, rep after rep, whether we're talking about in pass protection for the Jets, or we're talking about, run game for the Jets, whether it was zone or gap runs. The Bills were just constantly getting upfield. They were operating with push. They were operating with penetration. They were reestablishing that line of scrimmage. And it was, like you said, and we're talking about complimentary football, it was from everyone. Greg Rousseau, Ed Oliver, DaQuan Jones, Tim Settle, CJ Brewer had a couple good reps. AJ Epinesa looked good. Shaq Lawson looked good. Boogie Basham had a couple of strong reps that he's continued to add into his repertoire. And again, this is what's needed when you have a stud go down. Like Von Miller. Von Miller was the guy that was supposed to be the tipping point to push the Bills over the top. He's now gone. So you need multiple people to step up. It's going to be too hard to ask one guy to do it. And when you've seen these back-to-back strong performances from the Bills front against the Patriots and then this week against the Jets, it's tremendously encouraging going forward. Granted, the Jets offensive line is banged up, but the Bills needed to dominate. They had the matchup advantage and they did dominate. And that's hugely important. And that's why we wanted to highlight it.
Yeah, no, it was good stuff. And send us your questions. We have, we flew through that episode pretty quickly. I'm kind of surprised. But if you guys have any questions, if you want us to take a look at a play or two on the offense, if I can bring it up, we'll do it. We'll do it real quick. So Snow is asking, how about that play with Diggs on his long pass? The Sauce throws, knocks to the ground after. Do you recall that play, Ant?
I'm thinking of the long one that got shown where everybody was saying Sauce was grabbing Diggs. I don't know what particular one Snow is talking about.
Well, let's see here. What about let's go to maybe Dawson Knox's touchdown. Why don't we take a look at that one?
We could do that. That's a fun
Let's
one.
see. Let me bring that
A lot
one
of people
up.
have been clamoring for Dawson Knox. Bill asked, while you grab that up, I'll answer Bill's question here. Bill said, have you covered Allen to Brown? Yes, we looked at that play earlier in this episode with Mr. Connor Rogers. We broke down that play from a Sauce perspective and how Sauce recovered and made a good play on that one. But yes, Bill, continue riding with us live. But then when we're done, backtrack to the beginning of this episode and you'll see us break down that play.
Yeah, and as Anthony said prior to this play, everyone's been clamoring for some targets to Dawson Knox. We talked about it at the top. We want to see Diggs, or we want to see Davis. We want to see Knox get some more targets. Their targets are down, especially in man coverage. And I really like this play. This is a sail concept. So you have a clear out from Stephon Diggs. He's going to take the top of the coverage here. And then you get a sail route right here from Knox. And then just a little route from the running back to the flat. So a little levels concept. But more importantly, they're running 3 eligible receivers, Diggs, Knox, and the running back, into the boundary. So 3 guys into the short side of the field here on the fringe of the red zone here from the 24-yard line. That's a tight area, obviously a condensed area. The Bills do a great job, especially up front, because I thought that Josh Allen was a little skittish, rightfully so, because Quinton Williams was collapsed in the pocket up the middle, but he hangs in here on this play, and you can see what happens with Diggs going deep. He pulls a safety, he pulls Sauce, and I honestly think this is a box coverage. So this is a 4-over-3. I honestly believe with this guy going to the flats, I think Mosley was supposed to cover here. We see it with Tremaine Edmunds and Taron Johnson, and then Tremaine Edmunds and Matt Milano. They call that box coverage, where that sail route is technically for the linebacker. But Mosley doesn't carry Knox there, and it's just a really nice throw from the pocket from Josh Allen.
Yeah, look, he's just too wide open for it to be anything other than that busted coverage piece. And you see Mosley goes with him and then kind of settles down a little bit and literally stops his feet and then is out. And then you get a nice Superman finish from Dawson Knox. But yeah, this was a good play. And you mentioned the offensive line piece. I think that's such an interesting issue that's hindering the vertical aspect of the Bills offense. Like in order to get the ball downfield more, even just in the deeper intermediate, let alone like 20 yards or more, receivers need time to get down there. In order to get time to get down there, the offensive line has to be able to hold up and protect. And if the offensive line can't do that, you're limited. And Josh Allen's forced in certain areas. And the offensive line, did their job on this play. So, Allen could nail this one to Docs on this sail concept. And again, if the offensive line can hold up, it gives Allen bigger opportunity. It was nice to see it on this play. Oh, this is a fair question from Snow again. He wants to know, is our offensive line that bad, or is it that the Bills are just playing good defensive lines?
Yeah, I mean, in this game, they have a wave of defensive linemen, and their scheme, how wide it is, it can be dangerous to this offensive line because, yes, they're athletic, but over the years, what they've stressed is, creating that dish and staying on the same level. When you have those wide alignments, those wide 9 alignments, and they run all those type of twists, and they have guys that can go from speed to power or power to speed, they can get offensive linemen off level. So they could get a left tackle and left guard off level. And then that's when that dish, that offensive line, that 5-man front, that 5-man service gets punctured. And that's when things open up and you can get loopers and speed guys getting inside and getting Josh off the spot. But as we saw in this game, as opposed to the last game, Josh Allen didn't waste time taking off and on a lot of those scrambles. I mean, the Bills were an empty, I think like 50% of the snaps in this game. So they put a lot of stress on the offensive lineman, but they also were kind of naturally inviting that rush to puncture that offensive line pass protection so that Josh could run a little bit and become part of the rushing game, unplanned, obviously. But I do think that kind of plays into it specifically in this game.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. You can kind of maybe potentially not only take advantage of that pass rush, but slow it down in the future if your quarterback is constantly break and contain and using his legs, in scramble or like non-designed, but kind of designed scenarios. And yeah, I'm in a similar boat with this Bills offensive line. At best, I think they're middling. But when they're playing up against teams that have studs or dudes that can go, like Quinnen Williams again gets a ton of love, and he should. But Carl Lawson is good. Jonathan Franklin Myers is good. Huff is good. Rankins is good. Like they've put together, I think it's a fair comparison at this point because Saleh came from the 49ers. He's tried to build this front in the idea or the mold of what he had in San Francisco, where you can just roll out two lines, similar to what the Bills had at the beginning of this year, where you're just rolling out monster after monster, and you've just got 7 or 8 Velociraptors on your defensive line. You can just rotate them in and out.
Yeah, and I love this comment about Beasley. Koo says, Beasley will round out this team. He's open 3 to 5 yards every play. Make it second and manageable. Then we can get more creative and take shots and still have third and manageable. It's something that Louie and myself talked about offline prior to the quick interview at the top of this show. I do think that Beasley, the thought that ideally, yes, Beasley's going to live in that 4 to 6 yard range over the middle of the field in that hook to curl area, an area of the field the Bills haven't attacked all that often, mainly because Josh hasn't trusted some of the weapons to catch those passes over the middle in those tight windows, in rhythm, in those, passing windows that are open and closed very quickly. It's almost that, death by 1,000 paper cuts. They will take that all day. Josh trusts Beasley to sit in those windows on those stationary curl routes and option routes, and he'll do it all day, forcing that linebacker level to respect it. And that's when this offense was at its best. When they had to respect that, that's when you got Dawson Knox on those in-breaking routes in the intermediate area. That's when you got the dagger concept to Gabriel Davis over the middle of the field in that intermediate area. That's when you got a high-low on the outside with Cole Beasley on an option route, whether he's going to run out and get trapped by that corner, opening up that whole shot to Gabriel Davis. Everything at the height of this offense under Josh Allen and Brian Dable, it revolved around the slot position, and the Bills haven't really gotten that from the targets that they went out and got. Crowder, Isaiah McKenzie, Shakir, even some of the running back stuff they were trying to incorporate. They haven't gotten that. So I don't see an issue going and getting a guy like Beasley. And I hope, as it's been pointed out in the chat room, that he's not going to obviously be the same Beasley, but if he can be enough to get defenses to respect the slot position in the middle of the field, it'll just open up other things for other players.
Last year, Stephon Diggs in the slot, 20.9%. So roughly 21. This year, 33.7. So a 13 or 14 percentage point jump in the slot for Stephon Diggs. And I think that points to the piece, Eric, of you talking about them searching for that consistency from the slot because of how important it is. And yeah, Cole Beasley should in theory, ideally, put them in those second or third and manageable situations. Bringing him back, I said this on Twitter earlier today, bringing him back is a move towards giving Josh Allen an easy button. And it's an easy button that he pressed a lot in previous years. Beasley was that security blanket because of his high football IQ, his strong rapport with Josh Allen, and the skill set fit in the offense. But like you said, it's that trust piece. Like Allen and him had that relationship where, we've talked about it on the show with Isaiah Hodgins. We've talked about it on the show with Isaiah McKenzie. We hearkened it back to the clip that from what Tavon Austin said when he came into camp. This isn't an easy offense. A lot of what you see is the receiver has to read this coverage in real time at the same time the quarterback is reading it. They have to see it at the same time, recognize it, and the quarterback has to make the throw and throw it to the spot where he thinks you're going to be. And we can just see, you had a great breakdown from the Lions game with, James Cook is moving into Josh Allen's field of vision, and then he just goes back the other way. And that's not a horrible thing, but it's just a little piece of like an example of if you're not on the exact same page, potential disaster can happen. That ball almost got picked off. At worst, it was, okay, it's just an incompletion. But to make a completion happen, it takes a lot of moving pieces to be able to work together. And Josh knew where Cole Beasley was going to be. And Cole knew that Josh knew where he was going to be. And their ability to see things at the same time.
Speak of the devil.
They play off great with one another. And, he had some limited time in Tampa Bay, and lucky for us, you were able to pull some of the clips to show what he looked like earlier in the year with Tom Brady in this Bucs offense.
Yeah, and this is a fourth down play, man coverage. You can see he doesn't have the same separation, but that catch is something that's valuable to the Bills offense right now, right? Like being able to reel that in on fourth down. And yeah, he didn't play a lot of reps with Brady and the Bucs. But when he was on the field, he was targeted. I think the number was in the 38.5% range. And a lot of those plays, top of the screen here, option route. These were plays on third down. These are all like third down plays, fourth down plays. And they were going to him. And to the bottom of the screen, again, off the line of scrimmage. Watch the attention he still got. Boom, 2 guys are going and shutting him down. Brady's got to go somewhere else with the ball. So he's not going to be the same exact type player. But what the Bills can do with him is something that they haven't been able to do thus far this season with the guys they have on the roster.
That's the huge piece, right? Like whether it was purely financial or there was off the field, reasons for it, the Bills felt comfortable being like, okay, we can let Cole Beasley go and we can, I don't want to say patchwork together his role because I think that's disrespectful to the other players, but we can piece and fill his role with other players, whether it's a combination of Isaiah McKenzie and Jamison Crowder or also Khalil Shakir, whatever you're looking for. And for whatever reason, that hasn't worked out this year. And that wide receiver 3 spot or wide receiver 2 spot, depending on how you view Gabe Davis, has been a bit inconsistent at best for the Bills. And again, not to just kind of bang on a recent drum, but just showing Cole Beasley catching the ball there, even just that is a helpful piece for this Bills offense. They're getting inconsistency at the catch point from a variety of players. It's not just a Dawson Knox or an Isaiah McKenzie issue. You're seeing it rear its ugly head, and Cole Beasley has been reliable in that department. And again, I think it's a welcomed addition given his skill set and his fit, and seeing how welcomed he was by the locker room was also tremendously encouraging. Again, this is a dude who literally played on a broken leg and played with broken ribs. So it's hard to hate a guy when he guts it out like that.
Yeah, no doubt about it, guys. No, we appreciate everyone joining us here. Again, if you missed out, we had some awesome guests at the top. Again, we're going to start doing that a little more, bringing a couple, a little different perspective before we do get to the film. But we appreciate everyone joining us.
Yeah, we recognize Eric, like you mentioned a couple times here throughout this episode, we recognize the time change is different. So we know people set their schedules in advance. So we moved up a half hour early tonight to accommodate Mr. Louie Del Rio, who broke the Cole Beasley story late last night and then early today, this morning. And then Mr. Connor Rogers, who just does a ton of great work in terms of valuation, does the Jets pre and post game on SNY TV, also does some Mets stuff if you're a baseball person as well. But he's got his hand in a lot of pieces, and he's a dude who knows ball. So we wanted to accommodate both of those guys and be able to bring them on to talk some ball, and then wrap this up with a lot of awesome Bills aspect from the defensive performance this week. And Eric, as we kind of wrap this up and shift our focus towards Miami, the Bills are going to need another strong defensive performance this week to continue to potentially make this Miami offense inefficient like they have been these past 2 weeks and get some revenge on a Miami team that took one from them in week 3.
Yeah, and maybe a little revenge weather-wise, maybe a little revenge. Obviously, some snow expected. We'll see how it holds up weather-wise, but, they have a tough matchup. And they're going to have to bring their A game against the Dolphins. They're a well-coached team on both sides of the ball, really, even special teams. And maybe their downfall, especially when we talk matchup versus the Bills. Bills' special teams are pretty good. But it's going to be a battle, and it's going to be fun, though, man. Prime time, Saturday night. Like, I'm ready. Let's go. I'm ready to watch the game, enjoy the weekend, but then get back into the film room next week.
Yeah, it'll be a good time, and hopefully the Bills pull out a win. And even though Bills Mafia does not like the Miami Dolphins, I get a bit nostalgic. I feel like I'm a little kid again, and all my parents and the adults in my family hated Miami and hated Dan Marino, and I'd go to the
Brian
mall
Cox flipping off the crowd.
Brian Cox was a jerk, and you'd go to the mall, and there were the Squish the Fish shirts. I remember there would be shirts that had a cookout, and it was a dolphin on the grill instead of a steak. Yep. Yeah, just all the intensity that was involved with this rivalry. And yes, we will be back in the film room to break down some important aspects of a hopeful Buffalo Bills victory if we're talking about it at this point next week. But that's going to do it for us here on this episode of the Cover One Film Room. Again, we want to thank everybody who rode with us live on this episode. We recognize the time change. So thank you to everybody who tuned in live at 8:30, to the people who trickled in around 9 in our normal time, or who are tuning in now and expecting another half hour or 45 minutes. We apologize, but we thank you for tuning in now. Again, we had to accommodate the two tremendous guests that we had to start this episode. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this content live right now or later, please, please, please drop a like on this video. We still have 133 people live here right now. It would be awesome when we end this stream if we saw 133 likes on this episode on YouTube. I know it's corny to ask for them, but they smash that like. They go a long way towards helping us to track and trend in front of more eyes and ears, sincerely. And we're trying to grow this thing and ride it until the wheels fall off. So if you enjoyed this, please drop a like on this video. Please subscribe to the Cover One Film Room, whether here on YouTube or on one of the podcasting apps or platforms like Spotify, like Apple Podcasts. Drop a review there as well. Check out all the rest of the tremendous content on the Cover One channel here on YouTube or on the website. We got tremendous articles up the day after. We got preview articles. We got prop bet articles, extra film content. There's just a lot going on at Cover One, and we wouldn't be able to do it without all of you folks. So thank you very much for tuning in live on this episode. If you didn't, thank you for your post-live view, download, listen, whatever have you. For myself, Anthony Prohaska, for Mr. Eric Turner, this has been another episode of the Cover One Film Room. Thank you all so much. We hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well, staying safe, be kind to one another. If you're going to the game this weekend, bundle up. It's going to be cold. It's going to be snowy. Have a good time. Godspeed. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Cover One Film Room. And as always, go Bills.